What are we doing today?
We are going to go over what happened with our predictions from earlier, and we're going to get ready for most of Wednesday's stuff, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what happens after hours. What's up, you guys? This is Eric here with Max. Max has a little announcement for you guys in terms of his Twitter had some issues today, so make sure that you guys do not open any DMs from him on there right
Yes,
now. Go
please
ahead.
don't. I have not checked the DMs on there. I've been locked out of that account since about 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm on the Eastern Seaboard over here. Um, and yeah, but we're back in it. We're good to go. Everything's fine. There's no reason to panic. So, we will be back in action and everything like that. Um, and then yeah. So sorry if you guys got any weird DMs offering you some weird job that's gonna pay you in cryptocurrency. Please don't accept it because all they're gonna do is drain your crypto wallet. So yeah, be aware of that. Be careful, be safe, and we're back to regular scheduled programming now.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about what was reported this morning and yesterday after hours. Do a little quick update on that, and then we're going to get ready for what's coming up today after close and tomorrow at open. We'll do a little bit of a preview of Wednesday and Thursday as well, because I know there's a few names that we didn't quite get to completely. First off, what we have, we got to talk about UNH, SOFI, PayPal, Boeing, UPS, Spotify, Merck, PG. There's a lot that reported, and it's kind of all over the place. Let's start off with UNH. We had quite a long talk about this one. The tape on stacks was a little bit more bullish, but I'll show you guys why as well. We did see a sell-off today in terms of coming right back down toward the lower end of this box that I've drawn. So our secondary test is testing a little bit lower. I will point out though, we are forming a little bit of a indecision candle. So you can see on the daily, there is quite a bit of volume comparatively to the rest of the week, or the rest of the month actually. Since that sell-off, this is the second, not exactly second, but it is one of the bigger candles. It does show that there are fewer people willing to sell off into this lower bound. So that does actually, if you are bullish on UNH, I would say this is probably a good sign that we could see this start to push back up, even though we did have a sell-off today. Their earnings came in at they missed by 8%. The reported was supposed to be $4.48. They only reported $4.08, so they missed by a little bit. But I will say a lot of indicators are showing that we are near the lower end of this, and we could very likely start to see it push up higher from here in quite some, in due time. Anything in particular, Max, about UNH?
No, I think it was exactly what we expected. As we said yesterday, with that DOJ thing, despite the fact that they were complying, that may have not been priced all the way in yet. And according to what happened in after hours and kind of the morning shock after today, I mean, we can see here, like, someone was definitely thinking that maybe that was priced in because we did see a spike of that top wick early morning to 290. But then that's when we saw a quick retrace within 10 minutes down to the low of the day, or one of the lows of pre-market at least, 263.30. So I'm not really shocked with the price action that happened today. If you bought puts at close yesterday, you probably did pretty well. Today, I don't see more than there's not really that big of a drop that you can point to.
Now let's real quick see if anybody. 29th, we got some puts and some calls sold, and we do have these buys. They got in at 272. It is trading at 265, so these are down a little bit. 172,000, aiming for 270 to jump back up. So keep an eye on this. I would definitely say if we start to see continued buying in this, this might be the bottom for UNH. You know, I think all the bad news is already out there. I mean, there could definitely still be a bit more of a campaign to push it down further. It is, you know, it's in the news cycle at this point, and this is one of those situations where I'm detecting a bit more fear in this situation. So I think it might be a situation where we might start to see this push back up. Next, let's take a look. We've got SOFI. Oh, I like this one. SOFI. We talked about how SOFI has been strong. Saw it pop up higher. We saw a double beat, 34% on earnings, 6.7% on revenue. Saw it run up, let's see from here. Saw it run up about almost 20%, but it's come back down from there about 10% since. Really quick thing for you guys too. Fibonacci's are a great way to measure this. From the low to the high, you guys can see it's right at the 0.618. So it's retraced about 61% from its pop. But this is a good place in which it could start to bounce, could start to see itself further back up. If you're also familiar with Elliott wave theory, we saw 1, 2, 3 pushes up, and we saw a retracement there. So ABC pattern back down. Let me draw that out for you too, guys. Elliott impulse wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we saw an ABC correction back down. Okay, so this does set it up for potentially more movement up. I like to think of Elliott wave as a situation where when everybody's flocking to the markets, there's waves at which people go and buy and sell, and these are usually not predetermined, but determined by what we call the golden ratio. In terms of numbers and in terms of where people feel comfortable buying and selling their stock, there are oftentimes these ratios of numbers that that are nice and round to the human mind and to nature in general. So I don't want to get too deeply into Elliott wave, but in terms of it, this is a pretty textbook pattern that has just shown up, and we definitely could see this further up in due time. It is fairly low on that 15-minute, but I would say on the big picture of this, you know, it's gone pretty high up. So the wick that we see here, it's kind of got like a hammer down look to it. So it might still come back down, fill the gap before it determines what direction it really wants to go. Take a peek over at stacks. Stacks today, ooh, lots of activity actually. Here, let me pull this down further for you guys. In the morning, a bunch of calls came in. Then we started to see some puts being bought. So, you know, they did, these people at 24, they timed it up for that top. They bought some puts, saw it come back down. So keep an eye on it. See if we see equity start to flow in with this name. See if we, you know, right now I would definitely say we're just going to experience a bit of a pullback on SOFI. It's run up pretty hard so far. Anything to say
They
about
raised
SOFI? Yeah.
Yeah, so they raised guidance. They killed EPS. Last time this year, they only did 1 cent per share. They did 8 cent per share this time around. Revenue was expected at 805 million. They came in at 858 million as well. But what's more important is they raised their full year guidance as another thing. They added 850,000 new members. They also have a 72% year over year increase in fee-based revenue in the quarter as well, which shows strong platform engagement. The company's strong Q2 numbers reflect successful cross-selling, improved customer acquisition strategies, and increasing brand relevance among digitally native customers. Moreover, continued increase in fee-based revenue that now contributes to about 44% of the top line signals revenue diversification, reducing reliance on lending margins and adding resilience to profitability. So basically, because they have these fee-based like platforms that they can use, they don't, a traditional bank has to bank on you taking out loans. So now SoFi is basically saying we don't need to only depend on loans because 44% of our revenue is going to fee-based revenue. So that's meaning like the fees that you're paying to use SoFi, whether that's SoFi Plus, whether that's their brokerage, any of their products that have fees associated with it, that's now making up for 44% of their top line. And that came in at 72% increase year over year, which is a huge deal. So now that's putting them ahead because now for their earnings, it's not just, oh, how many new small business or how many new business loans did you open this quarter? Because that's what JP Morgan, Citibank, and all these other people are going to be judged on. So that's really the big determining factor with them is the fact that they're able to diversify their earnings and where their money is actually being made versus being trapped into the traditional like big bank cobweb in a sense.
Yeah, very good. Definitely think that we might see a little bit more of a pullback before it makes a decision as to what direction to go. As of right now, it looks like today's candle very likely is going to end up closing with it wanting to push down a little bit further. Next, what we got is PayPal. PayPal reported a double beat. I think we warned you guys about this. Double beat, 7% on earnings, 2.5% on revenue, but we saw it sell off. One of the things that I want you to point out, especially throughout this earnings cycle, is notice when things are running up hard right before earnings, more often than not, and I think I might have said this too, we're going to see it pop up, try to test this up this channel up top, this gap that I have drawn, and then very likely probably sell off from there. I need to look back. I think I made that prediction for this and for Boeing as well, and those actually played out just about exactly to what I had drawn out there. Let's take a peek at stacks to see if there's anything new on here.
By the way, let me know if you guys want like earnings recap articles, I guess. Because I write a lot of them and the recaps are pretty easy. They'll be pretty short and free. So, yeah, let me know.
On stacks, let's see, we got a few calls sold, but the rest are puts being sold, so they don't necessarily, they think it's probably going to recover back above 72 pretty quick, which it did. 8 some fairly short term. We do have one call purchased for 2026 January for over 75. So I do think that we probably, you know, earnings were positive. So at the end of the day, you know, this sell-off might just be them trying to grab some more shares and before they push it up further. So PayPal, like we've always said, just because earnings is positive, a lot of stuff is usually baked into the price. And so in this situation, a double beat still led to a sell-off after a pop after hours. So it popped up just a little bit after hours and then came straight back down. Next one, we got Boeing, BA. No, that's not right. There we go. Yeah, look at this. I had drawn this exactly. So while my resistance up above this yellow line is a little bit lower than what actually happened, it peaked up above it, went toward the top, and then came straight back down. Rejected that upper bound just like I had drawn on my chart here. There is this gap. I need to extend it further so you guys can see it. Went and they actually technically filled that gap completely and then rejected and sold off right after it. So, you know, these charts and the behavior of it, sometimes it's uncanny how it moves just like that. But yeah, we saw actually on here, we saw a double beat for earnings. Earnings is
Mm-mm.
still no. It says
No, it says 124 less than the 140 forecasted, while operating loss came in at 176 million, deeper than the expected 161.1 million.
okay.
So
I mean, they're
yeah, it
losing
looked,
money still, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big, I was gonna say the big thing with Boeing right now, they're still burning cash, so that backlog of planes that they have is not making up for their net operating losses that they're currently taking to fulfill their current order book. So it's like but I will say they did say they were able to increase their capacity, which is weird. So I feel like that's why their net margins are going to get crushed because they haven't solved their supply chain issues. I think they're just dumping more money at this point. Because that's what I did um recaps on all of these on Twitter this morning, like as they came out. Um, so those should all be out just in terms of like what was expected on the street versus what was reported, and then why it potentially dropped just in a quick sentence. But yeah, with Boeing, this one was a little bit more complicated because like it was a beat technically if you read certain and this is why I hate some publications. It'll be like double beat, and then you go and read like their margins and their operating losses and all the things that
Yeah.
actually drive earnings, and it
Yeah.
like sells off completely. But like when you read it, you're reading it expecting them to be like, oh, well, because we increased capacity from 42 planes a year to 47, that's a positive for us. But in reality, it's a negative because like they don't have the cash or the free cash flow on their balance sheet to actually afford to continue building those planes with their current chain constraints and tariffs that they're probably paying on supplies, if we're being honest, because none of this is being built in America necessarily. The parts are being imported from other countries and it's being assembled in America potentially, but nothing's being built in-house in America as we can say right now.
Yeah. Just so that you guys are clear, what Max is saying is that the expectations for EPS on this were negative to begin with. And so because their numbers came in less negative, so their estimate was about 1.4, negative 1.4, and it came in at negative 1.24. So that means that they did 16 cents better than what was expected by, you know, analysts. But the thing is, they're still got a negative EPS. So that's the reason why, even though you'll see a double beat on the board record there, it's still bad numbers overall, and that's very likely why you're seeing this. It popped up because of those, you know, you people probably see on the headline double beat, but the numbers are still negative, and they haven't fixed the issues, especially for something like this big of a company. So that's why you saw this sell off. I think we could still see a little bit further down, even back down toward about the 220 to 18 level,
Yeah.
before we see some support to potentially bounce back up further. Uh, but yeah, again, I think we pretty much predicted that one to the T.
I also think this would be a great opportunity to go look at historical dark pool buys because that's where you can see where people spent like a golden sweep amount of money on a position in Boeing and then use that price level as potential support
Yeah, this
because that's where they
218,
may step back in.
218.63 on this. They spent 154 mil on it. In terms of today, we just saw some calls sold and some puts being purchased, which I mean aligns exactly with the bearishness that we saw. Next up, we'll get through these quick. We got UPS, Spotify, and Merck MPG, Procter and Gamble. UPS.
Let's see.
UPS, like we said, down in that channel. It turned out it was more of a bear flag going down further. But I will say it's retesting this previous low. If we do see it break down below from it, we could see a little bit more pain, but I can't imagine we would see too much to come with the company at this point. We are already at these other levels of support. So yeah, maybe down toward 90, maybe 88 or so would probably be where the lower end of that target would be. But it has broken down just a little bit. Remember, they had the Amazon breakup, fairly low PE ratio at this point, but they did miss their earnings by just a slight margin, by 0.83%. Revenue was reported a little bit better than expected, about 343 million more than what was previous.
Yeah, they're the Achilles heel here, folks. No full year guidance because they still have macro uncertainty going on with trade wars taking their toll. CEO Carol Tome in a statement said the company continues to operate in a dynamic and involving trade environment. So those are two words you never want: dynamic and evolving. When you hear those back to back, that's like when someone says things are great and they say great one too many times in a row, and you're like, are they? So that is not a good thing right now. So it's not even like we can really talk about much with UPS, unfortunately, because, well, they provided us no full year guidance. So all we have to look at is what did they do last quarter? And it was mixed results where, to Eric's point, revenue came in solid, but it was still under. And EPS, I think, came under a penny under.
Yeah, and it's really just the tariffs are really like we've said, this quarter is when we're really going to start to see the tariffs take effect on the bigger companies. It's starting to snowball into it. The last few quarters, we've actually seen a lot of stocks pop higher, but this is where it's really being felt on the impact of their bottom line. We do have two puts being purchased, one for 80, one for 90. Unusual situations purchased for 2026. So I think UPS might see a little bit more pain to come before it's able to bounce back. But it is, getting close to its lows, or at this current cycle, I think it should start to get bought up. We've got to keep an eye out for the dark pool to see if that really does start to happen. Next on the list, we got Spotify.
Ooh, Spotify. That was another ugly one.
Well, remember, what we talked about was that not only has it, shot up so far, but ultimately they had really high expectations for subscriber growth and things like that. That's the ugly part of it. We saw a negative reported earnings EPS, negative 121%. So instead of them reporting the estimate of a gain of $2.30, it was a negative 50 cents. Reported revenue, surprised by, they made little under $5 billion. It was expected to be over $5 billion. Spotify dropped about 11% after surprise loss, but
hey, it's the thing I'm gonna keep talking about. The forecast came in colder than expected. You have to remember, a company can say this is what we're expecting, but Wall Street, for quarters out, has expectations that these companies are expected to hit based on their growth. Spotify came in cold for their FY26 and FY25, like rest of year forecast, basically, on both fronts. And it's showing that this surge is going to slow down. So if anything, I would look for bottom line price targets. So find people who are selling puts, see where they're selling those puts at, and that will give you an idea of support. Go look at historical data for dark pool buys. That'll also give you a good bottom idea as well with this. But again, I say this every year, even in the podcast I've been doing. Guidance will always be the Achilles heel here.
A lot of what you guys see for earnings what we're showing you guys here, what Max is going over in terms of his analysis, remember a lot of that has already been baked into the price. It's priced in. Okay, this is knowledge that everybody has. Ultimately, you know, if you're looking for it, you can find it, and it is going to be something that the big institutions have already priced into the earnings. So a lot of times you'll see either the run up or you'll see the drop happen before earnings because that's what is expected. Then what you do is when they do finally report earnings, the beat or miss more than what is expected is usually what is going to move the tape up or down. So keep that in mind. Spotify, like we said, there are a lot of indicators that it was actually fairly overvalued, but it's just ultimately it's run up pretty hard and a drop was kind of meant to come. So looking at stacks, there were some unusual situations from earlier in the year. However, not too much going on. It is a very pricey name right now to trade. Trading in that, was it $600, $700 range. A lot of these are extremely pricey to be trading, so you guys know. Next on the list, we got Merck, MRK. Saw this, it was ended up being a bit of a bear flag drop down below, but it has recovered pretty nicely since that drop. It's back up at 82 and headed back up from there. EPS beat by 5%, revenue missed by 0.5%. So not terrible in terms of their numbers, but we still did see a little bit of a sell-off over the course of this last month. Kind of went back and retested where it was back in mid-June, the lows it took out. This wick that you see right here with it bouncing all the way back up, I could see it retesting where it was, at least filling the gap from where it dropped before it makes a decision what direction to go from there. Anything to say about MRK? Oh, you're on mute.
No, nothing really interesting came in with them. It was just, yeah, there's no big news, no big announcements that are kind of worth noting right now. I think, yeah, I did not end up reporting on them.
So calls being sold, and then one unusual sell of calls, 2.15 mil for the 85. And then we do have some calls being purchased, but those are in the money. Calls being purchased for the end of next week. All right, next one. So we can finish this up. PG, that's our last one for today's before open. PG. Oh, this one moved all over the place. Positive in terms of their earnings. 4% beat. 0.23% higher on revenue. Shot up, came right back down. I mean, compared to where it was last week, this is kind of actually just flat overall. It's kind of gone up and come back down. So not too much going on with PG. I would have actually expected, I'm expecting that there's probably some sort of news about where tariffs took their effect on this.
Yeah, there was a tariff thing for them.
Consumer
goods. But it's that's the thing I don't think a lot of people take into account is the consumer side of these companies at times. Because it's like, yeah, they can sell B2B all they want, but if like the majority of your market share or what people are expecting to some degree is even over 15% of consumer goods and consumers aren't spending, you're gonna kind of get you're gonna get that pinch, and they're gonna go for the cheaper brand, right? Mm-hmm. So they're definitely gonna feel that pain, especially with these tariffs still playing out.
All right, that's our review for what ended up happening today with earnings, at least so far. We're gonna stay on till close and see what happens with Visa, Marathon, Mara, Starbucks, and Seagate. maybe even Cheesecake Factory. We expect a lot of these, actually, we think are probably going to get hit by the tariff news and those
Tariffs.
headwinds. Again, how price moves, you got to understand, earnings for a lot of these can be a bit of a coin flip. That's why you got to make sure you manage your risk going into these. Sometimes if a position can double easily, and a position can also go down 99% overnight. So that's why you got to be careful with these. Even with our analysis at times, it can still surprise. Double beat can mean a drop, double miss can mean a pop up. It has to come down to how they are able to phrase that upcoming guidance and what they expect for the upcoming quarters, because a lot of stuff is already baked into the price. All right. We did talk a lot about what's coming up for Wednesday before open as well. We talked about VRT, MO, which is Altria. We talked about TEVA, Kraft Heinz, Humana, and Etsy as well. Keep in mind, I would definitely say Kraft Heinz, Etsy, and I mean even Hershey down here, maybe even Harley Davidson too. Those are probably going to get hit by tariffs to an extent. Vertiv, I'm not sure what exactly they did. Altria is, I think they sell cigarettes, or they have Marlboro under their brand. So a lot of headwinds in terms of the tariffs and what effects those are finally going to have.
Oh,
A
I
lot
forgot
of
to.
what we did here, we did all of these yesterday. So if you need to go back to our Monday live stream, so you guys can take a look at those and hear what we had to say about them. We're going to discuss, we talked about Meta, Microsoft, a little bit of Apple and Amazon already, and strategy, so MicroStrategy. We also talked about Carvana. So we went over a lot of what's coming up on Wednesday already. If there's any of these you guys want us to overview, we'll take a peek over as to what has come in on stacks right now, just so that we can get an idea if anything in terms of sentiment has changed for some of these. So let me do that real quick, and then we'll discuss some stuff for Thursday, but we can definitely save some of that for after the bell so that we're not rushed on them. Okay, first off, let's just peek at what's coming up. VRT, some calls being purchased, some puts being purchased, so that's kind of back and forth. Some puts being sold, nothing unusual. I would just say these big money, they're kind of aiming for up and down from yesterday. So we'll see what ends up happening before open tomorrow. MO, Altria, nothing new came in. TEVA, nothing new came in.
SPY's falling off a cliff right now.
KHC, Kraft Heinz, nothing new. Humana. Ooh, interesting. Unusual calls being purchased for Humana. 260 strike for September 19th. BE, Bloom Energy. Let's take a peek at that while you. So there was a Stacks AI print for Bloom Energy, 3.47 mil for the $40 strike. You also have the $35 strike at 1.04 mil spent on that too. Calls sold, some puts being purchased also on that day, aiming for the same date. Let's peek over at what Bloom Energy looks like on TradingView. I will say I am bullish on energy overall, especially right now with all of the data centers and AI being used. Energy is going to be something that is in high demand. Let's see. I mean, how to break out of this downward trend. Had a bit of a flag, which it dipped down below, came up higher. very likely we're seeing the end phase of accumulation here. They got for November. So if we're going to be able to retest 36, 37, break above 38, those are the two main rejection points that we've seen so far. Then we could come back to retest their all-time highs at 44, 45. But yeah, I mean, it looks strong right now. A little bit of chopping around near where it's at right now, but I think they're just waiting for earnings. Estimate for earnings is pretty low too, just a cent. An estimate of $375 million for revenue. Quarterly, their net margin recently was negative. They did have a positive quarter at the end of Q4 2024. So if they're able to give positive net margin, show that they're actually making money, which I do think very likely is going to happen with all the demand for energy, unless they,
especially with AI. That's going to be the next big thing. Nuclear, solar, however they can get it the cheapest, and who can do it at scale is most important. That's the name of the game. Scaling is the name of the game that we're in right now.
Yeah. I would definitely say that stacks print very likely is already up from where it's at. If they report, report Thursday after close, just keep an eye out for it if anything else shows up. But yeah, I mean, they've got some time on that print too. So yeah, I do think earnings very likely could be positive for it. But again, just because it's positive, the question is how much of it is actually baked into it. Joel said, I saw for Hood, the CO sold a lot of shares this month on the inside trade section. Does that change your viewpoint for earnings? Robinhood has done a pretty good job running up recently. Insider trades, Vladimir sold off. Now what you can also do is look over here as see what the footnotes have to say about it. Sometimes it's part of their compensation plan, and then other times they've actually planned to sell it. So, right, some of them are PSUs or performance stock units. Yeah, he sold off quite a bit. I mean, I will definitely say Hood is at, and it's at its all-time highs. So seeing that happen, I'm not surprised, especially because a lot of times these companies, that's the compensation for that CEO. They don't make very much, or they don't make anything in terms of just a salary. They're just getting compensated in their stock units, and so they don't make money till they actually sell that off. The other question is how much does he still have? Like for example, people were all freaking out that Amazon Jeff Bezos has sold off stock, but it's just like, well, yeah, he sold off stock, but he still holds on to like 99 or 95% of what he had. He sold off a small chunk so that he can go buy his yachts and he can go spend some money on his wedding, things like that. So doesn't necessarily mean they expect the price of it to go down, but it is something to be aware of, is that, hey, the CEO, the CTO, they're getting out of some of these positions because this is a good spot for them to get good value for what they've done for the company. I would say for Hood, we're still seeing some buying in there today as well. We saw some calls, some puts. These calls that are short term though kind of make me think we're probably going to see a little bit of a pop after earnings, and then probably a sell-off after that. Probably. See, what else did I miss? Oh, Etsy. We did see that Etsy stacks AI print for middle of next year. Now we do have some short-term calls aiming for above 70. This could be, if you guys want like an earnings gamble, go spend, you know, $200 or $300 on this Etsy position. That might not be too bad. 72 cents per contract. They only spent 54K on that one, but you also have this one aiming for above 64. It is by Friday though, so you do have quite a bit of theta decay if this doesn't pop completely. So that's why I would label it as an earnings gamble there. We do have, CEO did sell off a little bit.
That's going to be a zero or hero type position.
Yeah. So, and then let's look at, we didn't do these yesterday, but let's look at Hershey. I think Hershey is going to get hit by tariffs a little bit, but we do have some calls being purchased for 185. Almost a mil spent on that one. Let's see what stacks, or see what our chart says. It's run up pretty hard so far, so I would say with how consumer goods are doing, probably more, I probably could see this maybe pop up toward 90 and then kind of like Boeing and what was it, Spotify that I said, or PayPal, where it pops up and then comes back down. Probably pop up toward 90 and come right back down real quick. It is kind of high up in terms of indicators and run up pretty hard so far before this earnings. And from, well, it didn't get affected as bad in April as I would have expected a name like this. Let's just look at, I wanted to look at this one. Harley Davidson, ticker name HOG. Yeah, down near the bottom of this range. Ooh, ugly looking chart so far. Not chopping around. Oh, okay, so here's an interesting bit of news. Harley Davidson in talks to sell stake in financing unit. So it might lead into some mergers and acquisitions. Let's see if anything on stacks. Puts being purchased for the end of the week. 20 cents each. That's another little earnings gamble if you wanted. They also sold some puts at 20. Now, that's a little indifferent, but there is a little bit of activity happening, and it seems to be fairly bearish on this name right now. If I just click on, look at this for the last, yeah, they're aiming for under 20. And I definitely think that could happen, especially, you know, maybe this merger and acquisition is going to be bad news for them. If they're giving up their financing unit,
yeah,
you know, that's where, you know, cars and, you know, in this situation, motorcycles, that they make a lot of their money off of that financing. All right, next, let's take a peek over at what's happened with what's coming up Wednesday after close. We talked about these in our last live stream, but let's just get an update. Meta, anything happened with Meta? Ooh, Meta is looking bearish. There's a lot of puts being taken out for Friday. Yeah, well over $1 million spent. Maybe even 2 mil spent. Not 3 mil. Okay. Meta's looking bearish going into earnings with what Stacks has to say. Microsoft's always been kind of like just a steady hand. I see more calls than puts. We saw a little bit of puts being purchased today, but I think we saw a little bit of a sell-off for just about everything. Yeah. The only thing I would say I don't love is how Microsoft's been sitting in this upward channel, and a little break to the downside could definitely mean a drop could happen pretty quick. So, like Max has been talking about, it's all going to come down for these. Okay, so for Meta, Microsoft, and even Apple to an extent, it's going to come down to how much money they've allotted for AI spending and for data centers at this point. So if they're able to increase that further, able to show that they're going to try to win this AI race, money's going to pour into them. If they
Oh,
show,
Apple's cooked, by the way, for AI. That they're not even CapEx worried at this point. They're talking about just like there's no innovation
hmm
because it's like just iPhones and Macs are the full catalyst, which is
like
like
a lot of people, I mean, we love our iPhones, we love our MacBooks and all that, but at the end of the day, it's seeming like they're not necessarily innovating as some of these other companies are. Like even I would say like Meta's, their AI glasses that they have. I think I've seen more people using them, and actually, it's gaining a little more traction than I originally thought would have happened. But look at Apple's VR headset. Like, I mean, there was
that
a
thing
moment where
flops so hard.
they're trying to advertise how people are going to be out and about wearing them, but whoever does that is just getting ridiculed at this point.
They're asking for Tim Cook to resign.
Yeah, I don't know. He's done a great job for the company overall, but whenever
Well,
things start
there's
to get stale, that's where the
well,
requests for
well,
the resignation's going to come in.
well, the issue is they have no AI angle. They have no model. Siri has the same capability she or he did in the last 10 years since that has come out. Um, and Bank of America came out and said each keynote without AI progress hurts the brand because they're expected. If you're going to be in the conversation with NVIDIA, Microsoft, and all these other companies, you need to be talking about AI as much as they are with your other products as well. Because Microsoft's main thing isn't AI, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Like
their
that's the
their
thing people
cloud
forget
computing,
about.
right? Azure.
Yeah. Azure's their main thing. So, and they baked that, but they baked Copilot into Azure. So now their enterprise grade computer stuff has AI baked into it. Has Apple done AI baked into their entire stack? No. And that is the big issue, and that's why people are pissed. Now, there are rumors of Apple buying Perplexity, but I've also used Perplexity and it's garbage. So it's not going to make them like a leader in that space because they went out and bought an AI model. That's not really going to do anything. That's just putting a new model behind Siri and the rest of these lackluster features that you have running in the background of an iPhone, where you're saying now it's worth $2,500 because of tariffs. So I think that's the big pill to swallow is people are getting sick of the brand because there's no innovation. You're buying for minimal spec upgrades at the end of the day.
hmm
And there's nothing that's driving the narrative to entice longtime users to keep using when there's better options out there for cheaper at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree that. I mean, I use my iPhone to access ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
that's how you use AI on a Apple product. And I will even say like, I'm on like what Apple iPhone 14 or something like that, and recently my battery's been getting kind of shot. I've been,
Hmm.
every time that happens, I'm like, okay, it's time for a new phone. But recently, I'm like, no, I can just use Apple Care and just go and get it replaced for like $100, and I'll have basically a brand new phone because it's not like, not like the camera or the hardware or anything of that. It's not like it's slowed down where I can't use it. It's just
No.
I need a fresh battery. That's it. So definitely, a lot of these names, I will say, after the reports from earlier today, so today before open, seeing what ended up happening with UNH, with PayPal, Boeing, UPS, and Spotify, I would definitely say a bit of the sentiment for the upcoming earnings are going to start to turn a bit more bearish. Um, just because the actual effect of tariffs and the slowdown of the economy is starting to be felt, I think. So, I
Yep.
would not be surprised. Like I said, today after close, we got close coming up in about 4 minutes. Visa, Mara, Starbucks. Seagate, I'm still bullish on. I wouldn't be surprised to see a small pullback on that, but I think um, overall, I'm bullish on Seagate. Cheesecake Factory definitely bearish.
Yep.
Tomorrow morning, Kraft Heinz, Etsy, Hershey, Harley Davidson. We just showed you very likely very bearish on that. Humana, I would say okay. So we saw Centene, which is a I think they do Medicare and do insurance. Humana reports tomorrow. We also have CVS Health on Thursday before open, and Cigna as well. A lot of the cuts to Medicare and all those things have put a question mark as to what some of these companies, what they're going to do to adjust. So I would definitely say that leads to a little bit more of a bearish approach to some of the medical insurance side of things, especially with UNH also dropping. With they're one of the bigger players in that space too. Okay, so keep in mind we will all of our write-ups, all of our analysis is all up on our Discord, is also up on Stacks. If you guys go under the bottom right of here, let me show you guys for those that are new. If you go under our Stacks and click on the discussions here, eRoo trades and also TG trades, you guys can see what we've got for you guys. All this stuff is actually put up on here for you guys to see. Max does his write-ups. I go through the charts and I go through a little bit of my side of the analysis, so you guys can have all of that ready. Another thing too, I did send out a Beehive newsletter earlier this morning. Max's Substack and his YouTube, everything's in the description box below, so make sure you guys go and sign up for those. They are free resources for you guys. YouTube is free. Max has a free version of his Substack. You can pay for a monthly upgraded premium version that gives you the full write-up, but you'll at least get the overview of things. And our Beehive is actually free for everybody. Yeah, I can't see your screen right now, dude.
Yeah, I know it just said it's trying to kick me out currently. So great.
Your camera?
Yeah, I just tried to turn it back on and it was like the program's not responding. Hold on, I will be right back.
All right, we got close coming up in a minute. Anybody that's still in here, comment for me. What are you watching at close today? Tell me what ticker you're looking at. Tell me what ticker you're looking at for the week as well. That way we can, let's have a conversation in the chat box. That's what I'm trying to do here with you guys. I don't want it just to be Max and I shouting out to the void, as I like to say it. But, tell me, what is it that you guys are looking for? What is it that you guys expect? What are some bits of your analysis? Is there anything we didn't really touch upon that you want to discuss? MicroStrategy, I will also say, I've seen more bullishness on MicroStrategy. I feel that part of it is a little bit of MicroStrategy just kind of being like the all-time meme stock where, number one, they kind of do have a little bit of a Ponzi scheme going on with it where they sell their own stock to buy more Bitcoin, which in return pushes Bitcoin higher, which inflates their company and makes MicroStrategy worth more so that they can offer more shares, sell more shares, and continue in that cycle. So a big part of it is there is a worry and a fear that if MicroStrategy or the side of Bitcoin does not do as well and you see a sell-off, it could tank not only MicroStrategy but the entire market of Bitcoin too. So that is where the risk lies with it. But I will say, with that being said, we just keep seeing MicroStrategy go higher, and same with Bitcoin too. So
Yeah.
Um, you know, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Nobody really knows. Some people have a theory that it's just the U.S. government holding on to a bunch of Bitcoin and preparing for us to move from fiat currency, so U.S. dollars and cash, moving that to a digital currency, which would eventually be backed by Bitcoin and backed by, you know, that type of security. But there is also the worry that once we get into quantum computing, the code for Bitcoin eventually could be broken and can be a big issue. So, you know, by the time we get to that, who knows what things will actually be. Uh, is
Tomorrow's a big day for
Roblox
crypto.
Roblox finally is short? I heard Roblox got hit with a lawsuit. Stack shows some short-term bullishness in terms of probably earnings. That might just be an earnings gamble, but that's almost a mil being spent for it to go above 125. RBLX, Roblox. Also, if you guys are watching any earnings, shout them out as they start to show up, and I'll put them onto the screen for you guys here. Roblox, so they're still losing money, right? Their EPS is still negative. Yeah, their net margins are still negative. They've gone through the accumulation phase. They are up higher. I don't think we're exactly seeing a selling climax just yet, but we could probably see. I would give this range here that Roblox is going to stay between 106 to 128 right now. So until it can break above 128 and have some strength above there, that's very much the range I expect it to stay in. Earnings is Thursday before open. It's gone up 79% in 3 months. It's gone up from the bottom here, gone up 330% in
Jesus.
a little over about a year and a half or so.
It goes through so much though, because then every other month it's like, oh, there's a bunch of pedophiles that
Yeah,
found
that's
on the
basically what I'd
servers, and
say.
you're like,
That's
what the?
that's that's basically the only news I ever see and hear about them is like, oh,
No.
you know, they're exploiting people on this platform and nobody's doing anything really about it.
Or
Um,
someone filed a class action lawsuit against them, and then like they drop for a couple days, but then everybody goes back and buys it because guess what? Nobody stops playing the game. So it's like it's I hate Roblox because it has such a strong community and it has so many weirdly enough like hedge funds into it that it never really has like if it sells off super aggressively, it just gets bought right back up at those same price points that you see the bottom out at. And then you see it rocket randomly on a Tuesday, for example. So it is one of those tough ones. And for earnings, I don't even think you could be like, this is a short for earnings because it might be a short for the first 5 minutes of market open. And then it might go back up to levels of resistance and then just create higher lows before another scandalous article comes out. So that's kind of the Roblox pattern for the most part.
all right, let's peek over at some earnings. Visa popped up and came right back down. This is a very common type of movement that you'll see. You'll see it take down the lows. You'll see it take up the highs. Before I don't even think earnings has necessarily been fully reported yet. Mara shot up so far, but again, most companies report 15 minutes after the bell.
Yep.
So is that the true movement just yet or not? Starbucks. Oh, look at that wick down. Oh, Starbucks just wicked down from close, wicked down
Hello.
6% and came back up.
Yeah, that's not going to go well.
First movement might not always be the right move too. So that wick down we might see a push up or You know, like I said, until full earnings are reported and it's digested by everybody, who knows?
I mean, it's
STX.
a $7 range is wild. It's at that bottom wick touched 87, and then that top wick just touched 94.
Seagate EPS looks like they beat,
Ooh,
but it's down so far,
ouch.
down to 136.
Not 10%.
Yeah, 10 to 11% so far.
Ouch.
Why is Riot stronger than Mara? Um, can't give you an exact answer on that. I don't know as much about Riot. They're also a mining company.
Man, that hurts.
Riot's also just going through market cycle as well. Keeps popping up, but keeps getting pushed back down. We might actually start to see some volume in Riot in time too. We're starting to see some spikes. See, yeah, let's look at Cheesecake Factory. Not much so far. Back to Starbucks. Starbucks still chopping around. Mara's going higher right now. We'll see what the reports finally actually say.
Oh, wow. It might close back to the high of the day, which it ironically touched enough on the first wick of this morning before selling off. But I could see a gap fill up there, like to 1727, around that area.
Mind Medicine.
Mind medicine, what the hell is that? So like
That chart
Hims.
is ugly as hell, but yes, we do see some volume actually coming in on it. Could definitely see above $10 in due time. It's starting to make that a bit of a flag pattern to head up. This looks like the kind of company that's going to end up getting squeezed higher. Yeah. Well, hold on. STX, yes, STX dropped, but look at the recovery so far. It's already back up to 146. Like, you know, anybody who's new to the markets, I'd always tell them stay away from earnings because it's just gonna play with your emotions
Emotions.
more than anything. And once you get into that fear slash greed, it's very hard to
Get out of
get
it.
out of it, and it's usually make poor decisions from there. So yeah, STX dropped 11%, but it's recovered and came back. So it's only down about 5 right now. Went back up about 6% so far. I would definitely say STX is the kind of company where um, you might see the earnings call help push it up higher because I expect they've got good things to say about what's to come.
Yeah. Anytime you're talking about hardware, software, or anything in that realm, um, you always need to pay attention to those earnings calls because those are what actually will push earnings into the direction you expect. Uh, Most times or not when you see that heavy sell-off. It's just people protecting capital at the end of the day versus actually having fear. Because that's why you'll see it jumped up $10 from where it essentially bottomed out at this point. Okay, that's done. Well, looks like QQQ won the day. 188 million into 525 puts. Someone is not loving tech earnings apparently.
Yeah, QQQ continues to gap up and then crap from there, so I had a couple of those the last few days.
Well, Mara's making that push back up, 1708, up 2.89%.
Will it break up higher is the question. Up about 3%. That's still fairly minor.
I mean, a Mara move at 3% is pretty aggressive.
That is true.
3% for Mara is like 30% for Apple.
Pushing up above
There we go.
1722. See if it'll
I'm
go
telling
higher.
you right now, that rejection zone is going to be about 1720. The huge sell-off occurred at 1729. So I think that would be the key level I would want to look out for with
Starbucks
Mara.
starting to go up a little higher. Starbucks at 95.
I mean, they got the Chipotle CEO. What can go wrong?
Visa, look, Visa dropped not a ton so far. It's down 2%, 1.5% so far.
That's a big ass yellow shit.
I still have confidence in STX in the long run, and you got to keep in mind earnings until it opens up tomorrow and you see how the rest of the week goes. I'm expecting earnings call to help out. Probably won't see as big of a sell-off in terms of what's going on. It's down like $10 so far, but $12 so far. But again, technically it's not even 115. It did. Some of these do get reported and release a little bit earlier, but you have to keep in mind it takes a moment for people and for everyone to digest the news to make their predictions as to what's about to come up from it.
Yeah, when we get to the bigger cap names, that's where the earnings call actually matters more than because I've seen companies lose on EPS, lose on revenue, and then still jump 20% because the earnings call, they were like, well, we partnered with so and so, and that's going to generate us X amount of money over the next year. And then the big boys who can trade during those calls, which feels illegal, start to just blindly throw money at it.
Well, it's more
'Cause
just they still play equity. They play the actual shares
oh yeah, no, that's what
versus
I
yeah.
mean. Not the options
They
play,
can't
but
do options either.
they just start buying out shares, and that's when you'll see those crazy dark pool prints
Yeah.
coming at like 7 p.m. and you're like, who's buying 200 million worth of whatever at 7 o'clock at night? Well, the big guys are.
Yeah. Looks like
Who else
so
do we have?
Visa, we pretty much made this prediction for Visa. Visa was
Yeah,
gonna jump up a little bit and crap back down. Mara, I think we were a little bit more, I mean,
skeptical.
skeptical of it, but very, we saw a little bit
I
of a
was just
push up.
confused on how they made money, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, I've always been confused on that, but if they're able to report positive earnings, then that's them. Starbucks looks like the CEO is not exactly making a turnaround on it, but yeah, like look at this action, guys. Like right at close, you see this wick down, which is just ugly. It dropped 6% there, and then from the bottom came back up 10%. So you can tell that's big money getting in, buying up all those shares. They saw somebody maybe put their stop losses, took all those shares before pushing it back up. Okay. So if you guys are on TradingView, this is what I usually do is I usually mark where the bottom is and I'll set myself alerts. And I set myself alerts for the bottom and for the top. So as soon as it does make a move in either direction, I'm alerted. We'll see what Starbucks, like for example, if we see Starbucks move up higher, I want to know about that. Same with Visa. Does Visa continue to go further down? Set that alert so it alerts me when it happens. Camera went out again, Max. And I can't hear you. 14 people watching. I like it. If you guys are here, what are the earnings you're looking at this week? Let me know. Have a conversation in the chat box. We're always watching. And also, as always, hit that like button for me. That way we can play the YouTube algorithm. Let them know that you guys enjoy watching this so that more people can come join us. I always think the more the merrier when it comes down to situations like this. There's, we're trying to share with you guys and help you guys learn about the markets, but there's always times where we end up learning stuff from you too. So sometimes you guys have more information on your industry than we do, and so we'll give the overall general understanding of things, and sometimes you guys can give us the deep dive as to what you actually understand. So I like it.
Tomorrow's going to be a crazy one.
The rest of this week is all nuts, guys. We've got a lot of stuff coming up this week, and I don't think the big moves are actually going to happen until we see tomorrow after close.
Yeah, no, I think today's been a little bit of foreplay before the actual moves. I think the way I described it yesterday, the newsletter, is I was like, it's like flicking the lighter to just get comfortable with it before you actually light a flame. So it's going to be a couple lighter flicking type days like today before we see a big ignite or any type of move, because really the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, they're all dependent on Apple, Microsoft, and these companies reporting solid earnings.
There we go. Starbucks moving higher.
Yep, I was about to say I got Starbucks open right now. It looks like guidance is going to be good for them. That's a guidance move right there.
Yeah.
Or margins, because I think margins were the big thing we talked about with them. Is our margins going to be able to stay within?
Oh, this one surprised me.
And tariffs as well, because Trump did tariff the most, I think the big South America by a significant amount, and that's where Starbucks gets like 90% of their coffee
Cheesecake
beans.
Factory going up higher. Mara going up higher. Mara's getting close to, it's above 17.5 already.
Well, I think are Cake and Starbucks owned by the same holding company?
I'm not sure.
Because if they are, then that would kind of make sense. All right, let's get these end of day articles done.
Starbucks, yeah.
They should be, right? Or I'm delusional.
This is where you ask Google AI to help you out.
Exactly. Dude, this is a Google AI question if I've ever seen one. Wait, that's not the right one.
No, Cheesecake Factory's on its own.
Okay, interesting. I really want to know what this Starbucks CEO is saying that's making this thing just pump out of not out of nowhere, but but the rally is starting to show cracks, which is not a great sign, but let's see here. But yeah, today felt kind of muted even
Yeah, I
because
think
it's just
everybody's
people.
waiting for Wednesday and Thursday, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like if it just all feels like Wednesday and Thursday, because then PCE is gonna come out. I'm sure we're gonna have more than enough data and all that kind of good stuff coming out that'll push the market in one direction or the other for the most part.
Mara achieved a net income of $808 million, a turnaround from a
Oh,
net loss of almost 200 mil last year.
damn.
They're starting to make a turnaround, it looks like.
I mean, that was the big narrative, right?
Yeah.
With this earnings calls, like, can they finally, now that Bitcoin's starting to make a run, can they start to turn the business around? Because they went from people buying speculation to now people buying a real company in a sense.
STX down near 140. Broke down underneath that flag. Turned out to be a rising wedge. All right. Keep in mind, you guys, we will be doing this again tomorrow, our usual closing bell show on Wednesday. We will review what came in on, before open. We've got some smaller names, and then after close, obviously, we got Meta, Microsoft, Robinhood. We got Carvana, Qualcomm, ARM, and we also got to get ready for Thursday before open. CVS, Roblox,
Mhm.
Cigna, MasterCard. I'm going to do my write-ups for those and post those in the Discord today. We can review them tomorrow as well. We'll probably get to that. Ooh, Visa. Visa just dropped further. We basically called this one out for Visa.
Yeah. I mean, anything in bank, if SoFi surged, someone's gonna suffer.
Nope. Joel asked, how do you guys choose your earnings plays? Whenever I
Uh-huh.
see, it's a combination. Number one, the chart needs to make sense to me. Okay, so, whether it's a pattern that's forming, whether we are seeing Wyckoff patterns, accumulations, distributions, etc. Number two, the thesis that I have needs to align with what Stacks is showing too. And Stacks needs to not be wishy-washy. It needs to have a clear conviction of what direction is expected for it to go. So there are times, for example, the one that I always, brings back up is Lululemon. I didn't go, in a huge position for it, but I bought enough where I was actually able to make a solid return on it. And the thesis was that we were going to see impacts from tariffs, the Costco situation where they were accusing Costco of selling their knockoffs, things like that were going to affect its bottom line. And we saw some extremely unusual prints for puts come in for Lululemon before the earnings. Stuff that would be where, they're spending 500K to a million on a position that is going to go straight to zero if it does not go in its favor right away. And you have to remember, the things you see on stacks are going to be large institutions and people who are in the know. Whether they've got friends that operate the company, they've got people or know the people that are buying and selling large amounts of stock. There's an inner circle that you and I are not a part of. And at the end of the day, they're going to go put their money on certain parts of, the puts or the calls, depending on what knowledge that they have. And so Lululemon for me was going through what I considered to be a distribution pattern that was starting to play out. Hadn't quite completely played out, but was headed in that direction. And then we also had the earnings analysis talking about how the headwinds of our tariffs were going to take effect and were going to be reflected upon that upcoming report. The other one I would say would probably be Max's Chipotle analysis from earlier last week, where he was, we were talking about how Chipotle has been struggling. A lot of the sentiment in terms of the company were turning a little bit more sour, and they're having issues with, especially with what we've observed in our local Chipotles and things like that. And so, a small position, I would always say earnings can be fun to play, but you have to remember that earnings in a lot of situations is a coin flip. And if anything, maybe you'll see it, go in your favor 60-40 or maybe even 70-30. So you got to understand the probabilities of it. Just because you've predicted what is going to happen with the company's bottom line does not always reflect upon what direction the price is going to go. Sometimes you'll see a double beat like we've seen. You'll see price drop because a double beat can still be a company losing money and having poor guidance for the future. You can see a double miss and then something in terms of a partnership or better further, future guidance is going to pump the stock up higher. So the hard part about the markets, especially when it surrounds earnings, is sometimes it might not make sense directly on the surface of things. But once you start to dig a little bit deeper, you'll see what the narrative is, and you'll start to see what the actual plan for that company is in the long run. And that's going to lead into the price movements as we go. I would also suggest for you guys, I've talked about it, extensively. Go learn a little bit about Wyckoff. Wyckoff, you can search for, he's got a couple of PDFs that you guys can find online. Just search Wyckoff, WYCKOFF. Accumulation and distribution, these are patterns that exist within our stock markets because they are pretty much controlled by the big money interests. They, the idea is that in the past they would sit together, they'd have a dinner where they're going to talk about what companies they're going to push up to the top and which ones they're going to buy up and sell off and create a narrative for. And keep in mind too, a lot of what's in our news cycle is also owned by these large money interests. And what they usually do is they're going to use the public as liquidity. They're going to send a narrative to the public so that they can take your money. And Wyckoff, I've always said, is kind of like the Robin Hood, steal from the rich to give to the poor. He was a part of the stock market exchange. He wrote books that were teaching people how to avoid losing their money to the markets, because these are the patterns and these are the things that are done to make you want to part ways with your money. And he came up with these patterns of accumulation and distribution. And I'll tell you this, as I've been, analyzing and charting the markets over the past, few years, especially, you definitely see these patterns playing out. And it's always important to look back in time. One of my favorite examples is Boeing. When you take a look at Boeing in the long run, went through multiple phases of accumulation and distribution. So much that if you look on the monthly chart of this, it gets a little bit compressed. But you'll see, markets don't go straight up in a line. They go up and down, up and down, up and down. And they have a lot of these phases where news is going to be correlated. For example, Boeing, you always hear about how, they're having trouble with their planes and, another plane crash here or there, or they have issues with their quality control. But accumulation, distribution, especially with newer stocks as well, are very apparent that you can find. So another example is Palantir. If you take a look at Palantir on the weekly, let me just take off all my distribution, accumulation, and then now we're going through multiple phases of reaccumulation to go up higher. But these charts and these patterns, they're out there for you to take a look at. It's up to you whether or not you want to learn about them so you can make more educated decisions as to what potentially could happen with the stock. Man, Palantir at 156, dude. This thing was let me go back all the way down here. This thing was a $6 stock in 2022. Okay. And it's always about the narrative too. If you go back there was a point when Palantir first came out during COVID and all that. There was a talk about how they're the next new AI company that's going to take over our government, and they're going to do great. But they never made money up to that point, and so you saw it distribute, because again, a company's not going to survive if they don't make money. Distributed, they dumped on the public, brought it all the way down. Depths of despair, that's part of the market cycle. And until they started to make money, they started to report positive earnings, and then that's where they took the name and pushed it up higher and higher and higher. Let's look back on some of these. Seagate. Hopefully this pushes back up. I think it still will do well over time. Starbucks getting close to 98, around that 97 area. Mara jumped up, came right back down, sold off a little bit. Cheesecake Factory, ooh, doing better than I expected. Harley Davidson, a little bit lower than where it was. Not much movement right now with it. What else? Visa. Visa just dropping. You're on mute, Max. I don't know. Couldn't hear you.
Yeah, Visa's just dropping off a cliff. I've had it up on my screen, and it's just no recovery whatsoever.
Another thing with earnings plays, just because, I have a little bit lower of a risk tolerance when it comes to earnings plays, and I think that's, I don't know, I've always thought that's the way to go, because if you have a high risk tolerance for earnings, it's very possible you've blown your account multiple times. I don't like to get into a position with more than maybe, I would say, $400 to $500 at the most, and that's actually on the higher end of it. I'm looking for contracts where I can spend $100 to $200 on a contract maybe, and if it does go well, I might see a 200 to 300% return. For example, Lululemon, I think it was a $100 or $200 contract, and it went over $2,000, so it multiplied. But that's the thing with earnings, is you really need it to move, and you need it to move in the right direction. But a lot of times what will be indicators of that is when you really see the big money really getting into those positions that you can kind of just piggyback on. Okay, these are not situations where I'm just looking at a chart and trying to get in. I look at the chart, have my thesis, and then it's where big money is willing to put the millions of dollars on that options play, where I go, okay, that's a risk that I'm willing to take, because if I'm wrong, I might lose $100 to $200 on that situation, maybe $3, but this guy's gonna lose like $2 million on that for being incorrect. And I don't care who you are, you're not putting $2 million. It's, you don't put $2 million on that position expecting it to go to zero. You're expecting to make money on that, right? Wyckoff, let me spell it off. Yeah. Let me find the PDF for you guys real quick. I'm just gonna put it in our chat. This is a good PDF to learn off of. It's not too long. 20 total pages, but I would just say focus on the first 5 or 6 pages to start. You guys can always ask me questions on it with the phases and everything like that, but you know, just get an understanding of what he's all about. There's a couple of names that are considered the founding fathers of stock market analysis. Wyckoff is one of them. Elliott for Elliott wave theory is another one that I've talked about before. But there's certain names that you'll see, you know, thrown around quite a bit, and I would definitely say these are ones, you know, worth taking a look at, worth learning from. Okay, we'll review our earnings plays tomorrow during our closing bell show. Probably try to jump on at about noon again.
Yeah,
that way we can have a little bit more time to review and also prepare for stuff coming up. Hope you guys enjoyed that today. As always, leave us a like, a thumbs up on our channel if you guys can. That way we get this channel pushed out to more people. We get more people watching. That way we get more of a conversation going in here as well. A reminder for you guys, if you guys haven't already, and if you are interested in, we do have this code, July 2025, gets you 25% off our annual subscription for Stacks. So if you guys are interested in that, I do believe it expires in just a day or two. So I would jump on that soon if you can. If you want our write-ups and analysis, you don't happen to be a part of our Discord, you can join our Beehive and our Max's Substack. You'll get a lot of information emailed right directly to you guys. That's completely free. All right. Make sure you subscribe to Max's YouTube. If you haven't already, subscribe to our Investor Central Club and Stacks AI YouTube here as well. And the thing that I would definitely encourage you to do is hit the little notification bell next to subscribe. What that'll do is anytime that we do go live, that is maybe sometimes unexpected, or we do additional extra ones aside from our usual Wednesday stream, you guys will get a notification so you can jump in on it. Or if you guys don't happen to be free, you guys can always rewatch these after the fact. We're always monitoring our comments, the likes and things like that. So if you guys can, and if you guys need to, you guys can watch it later on, and you don't have to join the live stream if you're unavailable. But again, we'll always have our conversation going and discussing what we see. Hoping you guys made some money off of stuff. We'll see where things open up tomorrow. We will be back at it again tomorrow. We're going to jump on here noon Pacific time. So that's going to be, what, 3 o'clock for you over there, Max?
Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern.
If you are in our Discord, in our Stacks software, keep an eye out on our channels, because we're going to do a couple write-ups for today to get you ready for the big ones coming up tomorrow after close and Thursday as well. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Happy trading, y'all, and we will see you guys tomorrow.